Hi and welcome to our WordPress Meetup group. My name is Steve Gazelle and I'm a co-organizer of the WordPress Tromsø Meetup group. It's a WordPress group. Our WordPress group is related to the WordPress international community. And today we'll be talking about the new features of the Gutenberg blog editor. This might be known to some of you. It might be something you never used before in WordPress, but this is actually the original or the standard to WordPress 5, since WordPress 5 was announced. And our presentation today will be briefly explaining the block editor nature and what it is and how to deal with it. We will be talking about the new feature announced since WordPress 5.5, and afterwards we're going to be having a small Q&A session and troubleshooting if you have any questions related to your own website or any other problem that you might be stumbling around with the new block editor and with the older versions too. We are, as I said in the start, we are the WordPress Tromsø meetup group. We meet every first Wednesday of the month. And each month is to share knowledge and ideas about making websites with WordPress. We went online since April, and we were doing so since that because of the virus situation. And we will more likely to be continuing these online meetings afterwards when we are done with the whole situation, hopefully soon. So I'm going to be jump right to it and by talking about what is the blog editor. Well, Gutenberg is it's relatively the new blog editor for WordPress, which makes it easier to design pages and posts without needing extra plugins. So Gutenberg actually started the blog editor as a plugin to WordPress. It wasn't standard before, and now, and since version 5, it became standard of the WordPress core. Some people still prefer the old classic editor. I used to do this myself, but by the time I made it and started using the blog editor, I really enjoyed it. It wasn't perfect at the begin with, but now it's getting more and more user-friendly and accessible to everyone. Some old themes and plugins don't actually support it, but this is fairly rare at this time. I never stumbled myself upon any theme that was actually not supporting the blog editor, so I would argue that it's not going to be an issue for most of the people. Well, if you need to get any more information in depth about the blog editor, we have had in our April online meetup our first Gutenberg workshop, and more detailed info will be you can follow up the link to the YouTube video, and we will share this as well on our Facebook, so you can just find it easier afterwards. So, using the block editor, you can choose to use Gutenberg as a default editor by installing the plugin, and that was actually before it wasn't standard. So it was just a plugin. Now it's available as a standard feature, and you can install the plugin simultaneously. The advantage that you will get from installing the plugin that you can have access to the beta version of the Gutenberg blog editor. And you can explore the new features. I would recommend, if you were to use the plugin and install the beta version, I strongly recommend you to make backups and be sure that everything is safe to the side before you start upgrading anything, because it might be incompatible with your own theme, with anything that you have already done in your website. So it's extendable. So Gutenberg blog editor is extendable with more easy to use blogs by installing plugins such as Stackable, which is very similar, or I would say almost the same as it is with the new feature that I will be talking about soon, which is a built-in feature in Gutenberg. But this will give you an extendable environment. So it's not very stiff environment. You can extend it. There is tons of plugins that you can use it with the block editor, and you can modify it to your own needs. So this is how the block editor looks like when it comes to the user interface. This user interface is a screenshot from the version 5.5. By now, by the time we're recording this, we have the 5.5.1 version of WordPress available, and it's going to look slightly different, but it's the same menus you can see here. It's going to be everything that you can see here, a slightly different way. They changed the circle that you can add blocks through to another square, which is more block-like. It's easier to see and navigate to. And you both have it here, and when you just move your cursor around the screen, you will have it popping in here as well, so it's easy to access. If you are only seeing code when you open this interface or when you try to use the block editor, it's probably because that you actually accidentally chose to do so. So if you're trying to navigate now and see the block editor and you're not seeing what I'm showing you here or something similar, just go and use the options menu here, the 3 dots, which is a little bit tinier in the newer interface, and change to the visual editor right here. And through this menu, you can access the block manager and manage reasonable blocks, copy all your content, and more. So to the new features. In WordPress 5.5, you can turn on auto updates for themes and plugins, which is really useful feature. I see it myself because I had to do everything manually. But something you need to be very aware of, that it might be a little bit unstable if you keep updating everything automatically without making backups. So if you don't have any automatic backup plugin that it's backing up your website, I would strongly recommend you to be very cautious about how you use this feature, because it might harm your website. It might, some theme might not be able to recognize the update and would result minor crash, or in some extreme cases, it might crash the whole website. So I would be more careful with this one. Read about the update before you install it. There is tons of feedback that you can read, even if it's new updates. I mean, when I checked the last update, I updated the WooCommerce plugin in my own website, and I had very useful backup I could access online, both on WordPress.org and many other websites. So be cautious about it. With that being said, it's a very useful feature. It's a stable to use, and it was really overall change when it comes to the WordPress. This is for the auto updates. The other features that it's going to be talking about, some of them is available, some of them are still in the beta version. So if you are using the beta version of WordPress, you might be having access to the design tools when it comes to designing and cropping and changing the layout of a picture that you're using on your website. So the interface became much better, better contrast, drag and drop, copy-paste blocks instead of just having to, make blocks, change it. The navigation system was a little bit stiffer in the past versions, but for now it's great. It's easy to use, and it's just around your browser. So my impression is the blog editor is getting more and more user-friendly in order to make people more into it. So since many users of WordPress, they do actually try a third-party apps to the ones who never been using the block editor. And they struggled with many incompatibility issues, and the time they try to change, everything goes down. So the block editor is trying very hard to make it an overall experience of WordPress through the block editor. So you don't have to get to any other third-party apps, which is a great thing in my opinion. So block patterns. So now it's have been added as a whole new feature, and when you navigate to your new block button on the user interface, you can see the choice of the block patterns added, which is very similar to the extension many of the WordPress users use, called stackable or outer blocks, etc. The block design tools have also been improved totally. Well, even more features are on their way in the future, such as image editing, as I mentioned, within Gutenberg, so you won't always need to process images in an image program, such as Photoshop, for instance. So the experience will be more and more inclusive in the block editor. You don't need to go around and make your stuff ready in somewhere else and try to upload it afterwards. And this is, as I mentioned, it's still a beta feature. So if you're not seeing it in your own WordPress and you're not a beta user, it's not available yet. So maybe it's going to be available soon. I'm not sure about the date. But I used the beta version myself. It was functioning well, and it was really cool. So that was it for now. I had hopefully managed to explain for you what's new about the block editor, and for now I can just if you have any questions, we can have a discussion about it. Do you use Gutenberg on your own website? If you don't use it, or you do, why and why not? Have you tried any of the new features? Please share with us. Thank you.